Hi everyone, it's 10 Types, and today I have some really interesting ideas to talk about. And honestly, I think, a solution to one of the biggest problems in Pokemon right now. And it's pretty much, I guess we'll start by looking at the problem here. And this is the meta of one of the tournaments. This is an in-person tournament, so that skews stuff a little. But really, you can see there's a problem if you look at the decks here. And it's that the main deck, played by the majority of the top players, is Lugia with Archeops. And honestly, there are a number of cards right now that are just super overpowered, and I think they kind of need to be nerfed. So I'm going to go over 5 cards that Pokemon TPCI needs to nerf right away. The first one, unsurprisingly, is Luigia VSTAR. So I have the card to the left, and then what I think the new text should be, and that's to the right. We see it would be cool to still keep the idea of Lugia, which says with its V-Star power, put 2 colorless Pokemon that don't have a rule box from your discard pile onto your bench. But then one of the issues is that people just flood their board with Lugias, and then they flood their board with Archeopses, and they have this very boring decks that are really powerful as well, because you can use multiple Archeopses each turn to get absurd amounts of energy into play, and you're pretty much able to one-shot anything anytime in the game. Lugia's been toned down a bit by people countering it, but it's still too strong. So it needs to be nerfed a little. I think that you need to change it to, and you see I have the bolded text change, 2 different colorless Pokemon. So you can't get 2 Archeopses. So you can get an Archeops and say a Bibarel or some other colorless Pokemon and help you set up, but then you're really not going to be powering up a ton of absurd attackers out of nowhere. With 2 double Arceus, you can just pop off and just accelerate like 4 powerful energy or 4 Aurora energy, which is pretty absurd and it's just definitely too powerful. So you want to probably have this nerfed to 2 different colors Pokemon. Some people will probably think that this will nerf it to the ground, but I don't think that's the case, because it would still be very strong. You can get an Archeops into play. And Archeops is still really good, even just one of it, because you can still get on some, let's say, a powerful and a double turbo and attach from hand, and you're still hitting 220, which is very solid for turn 2. Or you can get 2 double turbos, which is only 180, but turn 2 180 consistently is good. And then you can obviously build to bigger stuff later on, or you can still accelerate 2 powerfuls, and you attach the first turn, attach the second turn, so you get a big Lugia as well. And you can still power up stuff like Amazing Rare Raikou, which requires 3 different types of energy. You can still accelerate 2 Aurora energies from your deck, and then you can attach another energy from your hand. But it encourages more diverse deck building with something like Bibarel. And it also increases the game length, which is one of the problems with Lugia, that games are only 3 turns or something, because people just power up absurd attackers on the first or second turn of the game, and then you can't really come back, and the games are very short and boring. So Lugia probably needs to be changed, and you could nerf Archeops or do something like that, but that feels kind of bad, because Archeops is a stage 2 fossil, and stage 2s are often hung out to dry because they're just underappreciated. So having those good it's still nice, but nerfing Lugia here seems like the step you gotta take. Moving on to the next card, and this is another one of the best cards in the game that's definitely needed a nerf for a long time, and it's pretty clear. It's Professor's Research, also known as Professor Sycamore or Professor Juniper, and it just says discard your hand, draw 7 as a supporter card. So this is absurdly powerful. It's already gotten nerfed before from the original, I believe, Professor Oak, which you could play as many times as you wanted, but that was really a ruling change as a whole. So pretty much Professor's Research, discarding your hand, drawing 7. It's the best draw in the game by far. It draws the most and has the ability to discard, which can be really nice. And especially with Cynthia being nerfed to Shauna now, it feels really bad to play anything other than Research, except for maybe Marnie for Disruption, which is, honestly, Marnie is absurdly powerful as well, because it has great drawing and great disruption. It doesn't lose your resources on Research. And then something like Serena is also another viable draw supporter because of its gusting ability, but its draw ability is it's certainly good, but it doesn't compare to Research. So Research would probably be dropped to just go to hand, draw 6. That compares it to stuff like Karina's Focus, which is the same as essentially Bianca. And so then you have these cards that are draw until you have 6, which are now more viable because you're still seeing lots of cards. And Research, it's just too good. It's the go-to supporter by far for like every deck, so it's not very fun just having one draw supporter that's good. People talk about all these other supporters being bad, but its research is overpowered. You see it nerfed, so if this card got changed to discard your hand, draw 6, that'd be really good because now you can just go ahead. You still draw 6 cards, which is like the most in the more cards than any other card in the entire game. It's still really good, but it's just not like absurdly powerful. And again, it slows the game down a little bit. And right now the game's I'd say a bit too fast, and I think a lot of people would agree with me because the game's only lasted a few turns, and researchers toning that down a bit would make the game a bit more enjoyable and diversify the decks as well. Another really powerful card here that I actually have an interesting change for, and that's Drizzile. You see, for Luigia, I just had the ability. Drizzile, I have the stats, which is it's Water Stage 1 with the Shady Dealings ability that allows you to search. When you evolve it, you search for a trainer put into your hand, which is a really good ability, really fun and really combo-y, but it's become a bit too consistent. And so now games are becoming less exciting because you pretty much know exactly how it's going to go because the decks are so consistent. So one of the big reasons that Drizzile is so consistent is actually that 90 HP. Being 90 or under means you can use a level ball, which is allowing it to search out Drizziles and Sobbles. And it's really powerful, not having to discard. It's just one of the best HP marks in the game. So actually kind of buffing the HP to 100, it at first looks like it's a buff because it has more health, and in a sense it is, but really it's a nerf because it can't use Level Ball. And Level Ball is so good, and it's something that most other decks don't have access to, and it gives it really an unfair advantage. Already, it's an amazingly strong card, but it needs to be toned back a bit. So it needs to probably be raised up to 100 health, which is really weird, but I think it's got to be the play because right now you can just search out your Sobbles turn 1 really consistently, and then your Drizziles turn 2 really consistently. Now you have your engine just cruising super smoothly, and it's too smooth, right? You're always attacking with your like really powerful attacker by turn 2. So you can use like Palkia or Arceus or even I'm not sure what other attackers or decks use Inteleon right now. A lot are trying to go engineless, but it's not working amazingly well. But you certainly see lots of different VMAX and V-Stars using the Inteleon engine. And the Inteleon it can't be searched out with Level Ball, which is what balances it out. Both the Shady Dealings Inteleon and the Quick Shooting Inteleon both have well over 100 health. So they can't be searched out. You have to play Evo Incense. And this encourages higher counts of Evo Incense, so you have these certainly very consistent late games, but the mid game is toned back just a little bit in the early game. So the decks aren't as crazy powerful, crazy like turbo engine, hyper consistent style decks. So really toning that HP up, I guess, to put out a Level Ball range is gonna help the meta a lot because it, as I said, slows the meta down. And honestly, that's a big theme with the nerfs because a lot of decks are just getting a bit too out of control with power creep in terms of trainers. So, and we have another draw power, and this is actually Genesect V's ability. Fusion Strike System says once during your turn, you can draw until you have as many cards in your hand as you have Fusion Strike Pokemon in play. It's kind of a weird wording, but you can use this for each Genesect you have as well. But pretty much, if you have 4 Fusion Strike Pokemon in play, you have 2 Genesects, you can say, draw till you have 4 cards in hand twice that turn, which is really powerful. We saw cards like Shaman EX, which were just completely broken, and Shaman's been banned. So, and Genesect's debatably better than Shaman because it can be used every turn, and you don't need to, it's not on play. So you can just get 4 Genesects down turn 1, as well as some Mews, and all of a sudden you're drawing through half your deck on the first turn of the game, which is just absurd, and you probably shouldn't be able to do that. Mew VMAX already has so many tricks going for it, and Mew is one of the best decks in the game. If you didn't actually see my power ranking video, I'd highly recommend you check that out because you can see why that all these cards appear in high counts in a lot of the best decks. Genesect makes the Mew VMAX deck. It's still a cool ability, but it should be toned down a little. So I think it should be, you can't use more than 1 Fusion Strike System ability per turn. And I'm sure some people are like, no, that's going to completely gut this deck. And it's not. It's essentially now like a Dedenne or Crobat, which is still solid, except you can use it every turn. So it's still very good, but you're not going to be packing your deck full of like 4 Genesects all the time, and so you have more space to work with, which is kind of interesting. Now you can also tech in more Fusion Strike cards, making the Fusion Strike decks a bit more interesting. One of the problems, as I said, is some of the decks have gotten too linear, and one of the biggest decks that's done that is the Mew VMAX deck built around Genesect. And so Fusion Strike system it's when I saw it, I was like, this is absurd. It's like Zacian combined with Shaman, Zacian V and Shaman EX, 2 absurdly powerful cards, and this is probably better than them. So Genesect needs to be toned down just a little. I know some of you are gonna be like, "Yo, this is gonna get the deck." It's not gonna get the deck. I can promise you that. So if Pokemon makes this change, that'd be really healthy for the meta, especially with Mew staying in for a little while longer. Although we do have rotation coming up, but Mew VMAX is going to survive that pretty well. On to, I believe this is the last card, and this is Mirage Gate. I bet some of you are thinking, Mirage Gate, it doesn't seem that good. It's certainly, pretty much what it does is if you have 7 or more cards in the Lost Zone, you accelerate 2 basic energy of different types to your Pokemon in any way you want. And one of the big problems with this is you can just do the same thing that you do with Lugia Archeops, where you just pull absurd combos out of nowhere really quickly. And so the speed isn't necessarily a big problem, but the ability to accelerate energy it's clearly too much. Comparing it to a card like Beast Ring, which was really strong, which was very situational, and also couldn't do multiple types. It had to be, or maybe it could, I'm not sure, but it was certainly, it was a bit awkward to work with because it had to be on very specific turns. But Mirage Gate's much more open, and it's pretty fast to set up as well with the Comfy and Culver's engine, the Culver's experiment engine. So the Mirage Gates are just so strong, and you can power up like absurd attackers really quickly. The Lost Zone decks are pretty cool and very strong, but one of the big issues is they're too good, right? They're like taking over, and Mirage Gates, one of the big problems because its power ceiling is just so high. So nerfing it to just 1 basic energy, that's a significant nerf, but it's still a very good card. That puts into perspective how good Mirage Gate really is, saying that if it's nerfed to 1, it's still very good. So it's energy acceleration on item cards has always been amazing. We see stuff like Metal Saucer, Dark Patch, Aqua Patch. I actually don't know if Aqua Patch was that good, but Aqua Patch was solid. Dark Patch was absolutely insane, and Metal Saucer was absolutely insane. And we've seen other stuff like Max Elixir, and the more consistent item energy accelerators are better, and the Mirage Gate is the best of them all by far because it accelerates multiple energy, and it's from the deck, and you can pretty much do it whenever you want after like turn 2 or 3. So it's really good. It's pretty much the same issue as Archeops, but yeah, Mirage Gate needs to be nerfed. I think all these cards need to be nerfed. Comment down below though what cards you think need to be changed. I'm gonna come out with a buff video probably, because there are a lot of cards that I think need to be buffed as well that aren't quite interesting enough. So I think we're gonna wrap it up there though, because these are the big 5. I think this covers the best 5 decks. Gonna go back to this slide where you see all the best decks. You see Lugia, which I mentioned. You also see Lost Box and Mew. And we see control stuff as well, but one of the key cards is Research. We don't see Drizzile here, but Drizzile is still really good. So comment down below what you want to see, what you think of these changes as well. So I definitely think Pokemon should probably implement, should nerf these cards in some way. There are various ways of doing that. Obviously, if they like actually nerf the cards, that's kind of a weird thing to do. They don't really do that, except for with trainers. As I said, Research was kind of already nerfed, but they're gonna hopefully continue working on improving the game, especially with Scarlet and Violet coming out. Can't wait to see what they do with that. And yeah, as I said, if you enjoyed this, I'd really appreciate if you'd like the video, and if you really want to see more of this, I'd really appreciate if you subscribe. That means a ton to me, and I promise I'll keep up solid content. So if you have anything to say, please comment it down below in the description, or in the comments, not in the description. But as always, I'm excited to see you in the next video.